Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the PADAWAN Podcast, Apocaflix Movies All Star Wars Podcast. We're bringing down everything from the galaxy far, far away. And today we are talking everything D23. That is right. I know that we've talked about it quite a bit here on the channel already. But since it is Padawan week, and because a number of new Star Wars things dropped over the weekend, we're going to take about 20 to 30 minutes to dive into them. And that includes both The Mandalorian and Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. We know about the Obi-Wan stuff. We've talked about it quite a bit here on Apocaflix, not just in our two D23 coverage videos, but also on our last Padawan. We talked about it because the news actually broke then. And so we're going to kind of stray away from that just a little bit today and talk about the stuff that we physically saw at the D23 Expo this last weekend. And today, first of all, my name is Jake Berlin, aka Qui-Gonn Jake, and I am joined today by Brian Avellino, Mr. Brian Fett himself, man. How are you doing, sir?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm ready to talk some more Star Wars, as always, but today specifically, we have some really, really cool things to talk about. And yes, like I mentioned, we've talked about them before, but to us, we don't really ever get tired by talking about these things, because there are some really, really cool things to talk about in the world of Star Wars, and that leads us directly into our first topic, which is The Mandalorian. Now, The Mandalorian, since the moment it was announced, since the moment the title was announced, when Jon Favreau posted that stuff on his Instagram last year, the excitement for this project has always been high. It's always been at a peak level for a Star Wars property over the last 10 years, really. I mean, since the announcement of the prequels, and outside of maybe The Force Awakens, I don't know the last time that there was excitement revolving around a Star Wars property, because one, it's tackling something that we don't know. Two, it's in a time period that has a huge gap of stories to tell. I mean, 30 years is ginormous, and yes, it does take closer to Return of the Jedi, but it's something completely new and different from what we've seen on screen, and most importantly, it's the first ever live action TV show for the franchise. And so we have some very big things to talk about with this, and obviously D23 dropped its first official trailer, and we did a reaction here on the channel, Brian and I, and it's up there. You can check that out, where we kind of geeked out over it. But we're going to dive into it just a little bit and talk about maybe some favorite moments and things that we see that we're interested about the most. But before we get to that, just quickly, Brian, because I know we've talked about it at length already, just thoughts on it, your reaction after kind of mulling it over for the past couple days, and what you're thinking about The Mandalorian after you're seeing that trailer.
Mandalorian looks freaking amazing. I still can't get over how amazing it just visually looks.
Yeah.
It looks incredible, and I can't believe it looks like that, and it's going to be something you can just sit at home and watch. That blows my mind. Like, that it's not like something made for a movie. We're basically going to get a 6 to 8 hour long movie on this character and his story, which is incredible, and makes me really, really excited for what could be coming out in the future. I mean, we know we have Obi-Wan, but like, if this is just the first thing, it could be incredible.
Yeah, it could be a stepping off point for what, and I mean, they have Cassian Andor in the works. They have Obi-Wan in the works, and yes, those are live action and those are Star Wars television shows. But the difference between those and The Mandalorian is that they're on two things that we've already had connections with, right? I mean, Diego Luna's Cassian Andor and K2SO were in Rogue One. They were a pivotal part of Rogue One, and obviously Ewan McGregor and Obi-Wan were the prequels, and so we know kind of what to expect with those. This is something completely new, and if this is successful, this gives Lucasfilm the confidence to be like, okay, we did Rogue One, people really, really loved it, it was something new, but yet it was still kind of connected to what we've known in the past. If The Mandalorian hits, it's something completely new, brand new characters, brand new worlds, brand new story, and it's a massive hit like it probably will be, Lucasfilm, the training wheels are off at that point, right? I mean, they can literally tell any story they want and know that the fans, the hardcore fans, the people that want to see everything about this franchise are going to be there no matter what.
Oh, 100%. Like, I mean, this is a completely made-up character that was made just for this, which means they could get away with probably hundreds of more different brand new characters and pull in the same amount of interest as this one's going to bring.
100%. 100%. And, you know, we've always said for the past couple of years that the Star Wars universe is so big, why keep making it smaller by telling all these stories about the characters we know or stories we've heard of before? And, you know, we've been waiting for 4 years for them to do that, and it's finally coming, and it kind of feels like it's almost at the right time, because look at all the excitement around it. Like, it's building and building and building, and we've only seen a trailer from it, and, you know, they're dropping it bi-weekly, and there's so little to know about it at this point, and it feels like it's one of the most anticipated things to ever come out for the franchise.
Oh, 100%. I mean, this is a whole new territory, and I mean, if this crashes and burns, like, that's a huge blow. But the way it's looking and everyone's talking, there's no way in hell that it's not going to be anything short of amazing.
Yeah. All right, so let's kind of shift gears here a little bit and talk about the trailer itself. Now, up here on my screen, I pulled up some screenshots of the trailer and kind of want to, you know, go over some stuff. And obviously, it's a somewhat of a short trailer, but there are some pretty significant shots that we can talk about. Obviously, the first thing that popped in our head, and I think you can hear it on our reaction as we're kind of going through it, is the look of it, right? I mean, not just the way that it was shot as far as like maybe filters or whatever, but the way that the kind of camera is used and the specific shots that are used with camera setups, and clearly the cinematography is some of the best this franchise has ever seen. It's something that really, really attracts to me, because this is a time in the galaxy where things, even though the Rebels had won at that point, and the Empire has, you know, at the end of the Return of the Jedi, simply seemed to kind of be wiped out. That wasn't actually the case. For us who have kind of know about canon and everything that's going on, we know that that's not the case, and the look of the show reflects that by kind of being dark in tone, right? It has this kind of grungy, grounded look and feel to it, and it relates to the kind of story that they're going to be telling, because we clearly see in the trailer that the Empire is not gone, and they're clearly trying to still put some kind of order in the galaxy, and it may not go their way when they kind of meet up with this guy.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Honestly, like, we say all this, it could go a completely different way. Like, I mean, that's the thing that's the coolest about this is, like, we know nothing. We know the time. We know how things look. It obviously looks like the Empire's, like, definitely not welcomed where they're at. I mean, the very first shot is stormtroopers on head spikes, essentially. And then the aggressiveness that the Death Troopers show towards for all we know, that they could be showing aggressiveness towards someone else, not even the Mandalorian. But it seems like where they're at right now, it's like a very... What's the word I'm looking for? It's just like, it's almost like an outlaw area. Like, the Empire doesn't have their grasp in this area, and it's kind of like very every man for yourself type deal.
Totally.
Which could be freaking sweet, because, like, especially the whole bounty hunter aspect, especially, I mean, we saw all those people frozen in carbonite, which may or may not be his bounties. Like, that's pretty freaking, like, dark. I mean...
Oh, 100%, especially if we see that kind of stuff play out on screen.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, It's awesome because you can like talk about all this stuff, but we have no idea if we're even right, wrong, or even freaking close to it. Like, yeah. And that's the cool thing because, I mean, for the most part with Star Wars stuff in the last however many years, like, you kind of know what you're steering at least a little bit towards. Like, you have an idea. Mm-hmm. This, you have no freaking clue. Like, yeah, you know cool. that he's a Mandalorian bounty hunter, and that's about it. Like, that's literally it. It's
yeah. We don't know who his name is. We haven't heard his voice. We haven't seen
his face.
Yeah, well, we know he's Pedro Pascal, but we haven't seen what he looks like in this show. There's definitely a lot of mystery revolving around the show still, and that's pretty cool because the show is 2+ months away, and typically with this type of stuff, when it comes to Star Wars, we're trying to get as much information as possible into it, and it's kind of cool to go into it knowing as little as possible.
Yeah. So, who knows? I'm excited for it, though.
Yeah, so real quick, though, I wanted to mention something, because I know that you're a Potterhead, a Harry Potter person. The shot in the trailer of the purple Twi'lek, I don't know if you saw this already, but that actress played Nymphadora Tonks in Harry Potter.
That's Tonks? Interesting.
And she also plays the wildling Osha in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
The one that helps Bran. And so that is her under the makeup. And there's a couple shots of it of the trailer specifically, but it's cool because you can tell that this show is going back to the roots of Star Wars of using practical effects, and it's clear with her because they put the makeup on her. They built the head of the Twi'lek and the antennas essentially that they have of them, the species that come from the planet Ryloth, and so it's really cool, and I'm excited to see that because I've always wanted to see more Twi'leks on screen. I think they're some of the most underused species in Star Wars, especially live action. And if she has a good role, I'm excited for that. But yeah, she's the actress. I don't have. Let me see if I can find her name real quick. I believe her name is Natalia Tena. Natalia Tena is her name. So she Tonks from Harry Potter and Osha from Game of Thrones.
Definitely no Tonks, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, kind of keeping the purple on purple too, which is very interesting.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I mean, before we move on to the Rise of Skywalker, I mean, any more thoughts on The Mandalorian? And moving on, I mean, this is more than likely going to be the only trailer we see from the show. That's fine. I guess just favorite shot from the trailer, maybe think something that comes up that pops in your head immediately.
The very first time we see the Razor Crest flying over the forest area.
So the very first shot of the trailer.
Yeah, well, mine past the stormtroopers, but
yes.
Like that's when I went like, holy crap! Like,
yeah,
this isn't just a streamed TV show. Like this
it's not just going to be planet based either.
No, like once I saw that, I was like, holy cow! Like this is like a movie.
Yeah. So for me, my shot kind of consists of two because it looks like it could end up being the same shot. But it's a back-to-back shot of the Mandalorian on the turret, and then it's followed by IG-11 with the guns.
I knew you were going for that one.
You know how long I've been waiting to see this type of droid on screen and this type of character. It's not IG-88, but seeing that type of character and him being voiced by Taika Waititi is just going to be amazing. And if he's kind of playing like a partner in crime type role with the Mandalorian, I am so on board for that.
I'm so glad they're using that character or droid, if you will, because I've always wondered how the hell is that one a bounty hunter? Like,
yeah, I hope we get some story of it for sure.
Yeah, it literally just looks so like not functional. Mm-hmm. That thing was bad freaking ass.
Its arms were moving. His arms were moving freaking crazy.
So I'm excited.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's gonna wrap up our Mandalorian talk, and we're gonna move on to the big one. And as I mentioned, we're gonna be talking about the Rise of Skywalker. But we're not just gonna be talking about the Rise of Skywalker and the trailer and the poster or whatever. We're focusing on one topic and one topic only, and that is Dark Rey that was featured in the trailer. a moment that blew everyone's mind.
I don't
remember got everyone. Yeah, I know, right? We don't remember that part. It's only every thumbnail and website header over the weekend. But yeah, so we're gonna take about 10 minutes or so to kind of dive into this topic and throw our thoughts out there. I know we've talked about it before on some previous podcasts, but maybe we've thought of something new after then, or we read about something that kind of triggered something in our head, and so. I mean, I think you and I, Brian, kind of line up on the same page here as far as her pretty much being a clone, correct?
Yeah, you and I basically just looked at each other and went, "That's a clone."
Yeah, and I know that we threw around the idea of it being a vision, and so let's kind of...
People are pretty convinced of that, too, because of some book or whatever said, like, a vision of Rey or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, she's had a vision before, right? In The Force Awakens, she had a little premonition of some stuff, and so there's some evidence there. But I would say that there is much more evidence of her being a clone. And before we get to that, though, you know, is it something that you would like to see her being a clone, or possibly like... No, not just her being a clone, but there being a clone of her per se. Like, is that something that interests you in the world of Star Wars?
I'm down. I'm down for anything. Like, I'm not gonna complain. It would be a pretty gnarly twist. Like, we've been caring about like who is she, who's her parents, and blah blah blah. But like, if she really was just kind of like nothing, and then like turns out now she has a clone, like that would be wild. Like, I can't even imagine. Like,
yeah, no, I think
the only thing is, it makes me really wonder if J.J. Abrams would have done that. If all three would have been his, would we have known that sooner? If that's what it comes down to, like, it gives me more questions.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree with you. Now, I have some stuff to kind of back up the clone idea here, and a lot of people don't realize this, but it's kind of been teased throughout the sequel trilogy from the very beginning, and there's some very obvious ones. Let's talk about The Force Awakens first. So The Force Awakens, right? We're going through this story. The first sign of any kind of clone mentions or anything, Kylo Ren literally talks about the clone army. He says,
I would say that one dropped the most clues. That movie.
Yes. Well, I'll wait until I get to the later stuff.
Okay.
And so, obviously, he talks about using a clone army. That's like, okay, they mentioned it. Maybe they're talking about the prequels, or maybe they're dropping something for later on. That'd be very cool. The second one is when Han is looking at Rey, right? We've always talked about that scene and how he looked at her like he knew who she was.
Didn't he just go like, huh?
Yeah, like,
no, that was something else.
Like she had said something. They're flying the Falcon. They're going to Maz Kanata, and she says something in the Falcon, or she says, "I've never seen so much green in the world." And he looks at her, and it's almost like a perplexing look of him realizing who she is. And so maybe he knows.
It kind of looks like sadness.
Yeah, or sadness of maybe her comment, or possibly even like sadness of knowing who she is and the fact that maybe she was locked away on this planet, and then he knew that she was locked away on this planet. Something along that lines, maybe?
Maybe. I mean, it makes me think... Well, I'm sure it's your next comment, so go ahead.
Well, the next one I would be was the actual vision itself.
I was going to say, and then Maz Kanata going, "Who's the girl?"
Yes. Well, that also mentions when Kylo Ren says, what girl? Remember? He says, "What girl?" in The Force Awakens. And maybe he knows about some kind of cloning system that either Palpatine was involved with or Snoke was involved with. And he's like, "What girl? I know of this girl. What are you talking about? Who is she? I know how powerful she is, etc., etc." Yeah, so, I mean, that's another point.
It's fair to think that he would know.
So, the biggest one from The Force Awakens for me is the vision. Now, my reasons for the visions being a clue of her being a.
Oh my God! I didn't even think of that.
Of being do you know what I'm going to say? What do you think I'm going to say?
It's not her memories.
So this is what I'm thinking. I've been really thinking about this the past couple days since we've talked.
Clearly.
What if she's not a clone? I guess she can kind of be considered a clone when I say this, but she's a concoction of the most powerful Jedi Palpatine has ever come across.
The Hand.
I'm not talking about the Hand. I'm talking about a connection to Obi-Wan, because we hear Obi-Wan in her vision. A connection to Luke, because how does she know about Cloud City in the vision, right? When she knows about that moment, how does she know about that moment? We hear Yoda in there. I'm not saying she has connection to Yoda, but maybe a little bit of Qui-Gonn, maybe a little bit of Mace Windu. Maybe that's why we saw them in the trailer. I'm thinking to myself that Palpatine has figured out a way to not clone, but reborn a Force-sensitive being in his making by bringing together the greatest Force-sensitive beings he's ever met in his life, and she's a love child of them all. Hence, the vision of her seeing all of these different things. And that would also believe or back up why she is so powerful so immediately. Why does the lightsaber call to her? Because maybe she has some Luke in her. Why is she able to, persuade the stormtrooper? Maybe it's something she learned from a previous Jedi of that making. I mean, this type of concoction that maybe Palpatine has been building and kind of making a couple of them or a dozen of them or whatever it may be, we know that he has a backup, or he's dealt with clones in the past. Obviously, he did the whole clone army thing, flipped the switch, right? These clone army came on to life when he executed Order 66. What if he was planning on doing the same thing, but this time it's a Force-sensitive person, and it just so happened to look like Rey? I'm not saying that she's a clone of Luke. I'm not saying that she's a clone of Obi-Wan. I'm saying, what if she's a clone of Luke, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gonn, Mace Windu, all of these Jedi Anakin, all of these Jedi we've met in the past, and that is the way we tied this whole entire saga together.
I instantly went to thinking she's a clone of Luke via the Hand.
Well, and so yes, or go on before I go on. You go ahead.
And I was gonna say, and with his DNA or whatever, the memories through the Force or whatever are with her, because all of those things, the people that were speaking in that vision, at some point, I mean, granted, the Obi-Wan Kenobi was Ewan McGregor's voice, but I mean, at some point, all those characters and things interacted and happened with Luke.
You are correct.
Every single one of them.
Yes, and this is what I was going to get to. So if you're listening and you don't understand what we're talking about with the hand, Luke's severed hand from The Empire Strikes Back. That's what we're talking about. And before The Force Awakens was filming, there was a script, the original script that J.J. Abrams had for The Force Awakens. The opening scene of the movie, you know how we do the crawl and it goes into space, it was going to pan over to Luke's clutched hand holding the lightsaber that was severed from The Empire Strikes Back, that had been floating around in space all these years, and that's how the movie was going to open. Now what Brian is saying is that Palpatine found that hand, he's cloning someone from that hand via Luke, and that is why Rey has all these memories. Now, from my perspective, or from what I'm saying and what Brian's saying, what Brian is saying is much more believable. It is 100% more believable to clone something from one thing rather than kind of concoct it from a couple different things. And it makes complete sense because why would J.J. Abrams let that go? That was supposed to be the opening of the sequel trilogy that's set 30 years later after the original trilogy. It was supposed to be the very first thing we saw. Why would he let that go? There's no way he's not going to use that, and it would be the perfect way to use it.
Yeah. Holy crap.
Kind of got your head spinning now?
That could be wild.
So, outside of The Force Awakens, there's a lot of hints inside The Force Awakens, obviously. And we only have about 5 minutes left because the time's going to run out on us. And I wanted to mention this quickly, but the biggest thing that we can take away from The Last Jedi is her cave scene. Now, that scene where she's supposed to reveal her parents and it doesn't end up revealing her parents, but it ends up revealing her. What if it reveals her that way with multiple of her because it's showing her that she is a clone?
Oh my god. I didn't even think of that.
Did that just blow your mind, or did I just blow your mind?
Just a bunch of clones because they weren't.
She's one of many. She's one of many.
Clones. Holy shit.
And here's even a bigger thing. What if Kylo was in fact telling her the truth, and that her parents were filthy junk traders, and that they were just people watching over her, that they got a hold of her somehow, but they weren't actually her parents because she doesn't actually have parents?
Oh my god.
Am I right?
If this isn't how the movie ends up being, we need to, send in a script and be like, hey, make an alternate version because this shit is good.
Yeah. Crazy, right?
Oh my god.
How about that?
Dang. So
just to kind of recap here, we're talking about
I'm gonna be kind of pissed if we just nailed the whole entire movie.
Yeah, I know, right? So to kind of recap here in the last few minutes, we're talking Dark Rey here for the Rise of Skywalker, and maybe some reasons as to how she could possibly be a clone, because that is the one thing that Brian and I are buying at this point. We've talked about everything that has happened in the sequel trilogy so far that points to clones. Stuff that has happened in The Force Awakens with Kylo, with Han, with Maz Kanata, and mostly with Rey's vision. And then we talked about the cutout version of the Force Awakens script that included Luke's severed hand. And then we moved on to The Last Jedi, which points to Rey being a clone with her cave scene, and it not revealing her parents, rather than revealing multiple versions of her, which could easily say, hey, you don't have parents. It's not that you don't have parents or don't deserve parents, but you're just, in fact, a clone. You've been crafted. You've been made from the most evil person the galaxy has ever seen. And so whether or not that happens, we're not sure, but it's what we think, and it kind of blows our minds, and we're having a little fun here talking about it. Before we get out of here, Brian, just some final thoughts, man, on Dark Rey. Do you like it if that happens as far as her being a clone? And do you think that version we saw is the Rey we know, or is it another version where our Rey is going to have to fight her?
My mind's blown right now.
Quickly, because we got about a minute and 20 seconds.
My mind's blown, and I don't know. I would love to see her fight herself. That would be kind of dope. Not gonna lie.
I'm with you. I do think that there's gonna be a Rey versus Rey battle, and it is gonna be another version of her where she has to face herself, face her demons. But my mind also went to the fact that what if Rey is the most powerful? And I'm gonna leave you on this because we do have to get out of here. What if Rey is so powerful where she has to actually go into the dark side to win and pull herself back out, and she happens to do that?
Boom.
Very, very interesting. So, and maybe we'll talk about that on the next Padawan or do a bonus episode because we have a lot to talk about. But for now, that is the Padawan podcast from Apocaflix Movies. I am Qui-Gonn Jake. That is Brian Avellino, Brian Fett, and we are here talking The Mandalorian and the Rise of Skywalker. Leave some thoughts down below in the comments. We'd love to hear from you guys. This is a big, big topic, and we're going to be talking about it for the next 6 or 5 months or so. And so we'd love to hear from you guys. Everything Dark Rey, everything The Mandalorian. Even want to leave some Obi-Wan stuff down there. We'd love to hear from you because it is a pretty big topic in the world of Star Wars. For now, that is it. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. Get this episode out there. We'd love to get this podcast on the move to everyone out there to hear our thoughts on it. And we really, really appreciate it. So, again, thank you for joining us on the Padawan Podcast today. And may the Force be with you.